Yo guys, I'm sorry, you already know that today I'm going to be bringing you guys a video talking about my most anticipated games coming in 2022. I don't know if you've heard, but 2022 is going to be pretty stacked for video games, so much so that while making this list I had to change it from a top 10 to a top 15. One of my main goals for 2022 is to do a way better job with playing games as they come out and just staying in the loop with a lot of the game releases. Not only is this just going to be a list of me talking about my most anticipated games for next year, this is also going to be basically a sneak preview of the type of games that you're going to see me playing and talking about next year. So if any of the games on this list interest you, make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be playing or talking about most, if not all of these video games, and I would love to have you join me on my journey as I do that. Keep in mind that this is just my list, and this is a mixture of the type of games that I want to play as well as the type of games that I want to make content about, so I'm approaching this from multiple angles, and I tried to get a good variety of games, you know, the big titles, the small indie games, all sorts of different genres. There's a lot of different stuff on this list, and I'm excited for every single one of them. This is basically just ordered by how hyped and excited I am for them, but generally the ones towards the top of the list are the ones that I'm more confident are going to be games that I like, whereas the ones towards the bottom I'm less sure about, but I'm still interested in nonetheless. Now, before we get onto the list, there are a couple games that I want to talk about and discuss why they're not on the list for one reason or another. The biggest omission from this list is going to be Breath of the Wild 2. I was not super into the first Breath of the Wild, and while there is a universe where I would give the game another chance, I don't think that there is enough of a demand for me to play Breath of the Wild when everybody and their mother is going to be playing Breath of the Wild 2 when it comes out, and I'm not even 100% confident that Breath of the Wild 2 will even come out in 2022. Every game that has a release window of late 2022, I'm very skeptical, could get pushed back because it's just delays happens all the time and you never know. Sticking with Nintendo, Pokemon Legends Arceus is also not going to be on this list. The more I see from the game, the more I'm pretty sure that it's not for me. I'm going to wait and hold off until I hear overwhelmingly positive things about it, and if I don't, I probably won't bother, and if I do, I may play it on my own time, but there's a very low chance that I talk about it in any way, shape, or form on the channel. My one honorable mention, though, is Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I've never played the first Mario & Rabbids game, but I feel like I keep seeing more about it, and I feel like it's a game that I would like, but I can't really guarantee that I can set aside time to play the first one, let alone the second one, so that didn't make the list, but there is a world where I play that game. I decided not to count the Cuphead DLC as an entry on this list because it's just DLC to an existing game and not a new game of its own. But I am very excited for it, and I'm basically guaranteeing a Cuphead playthrough at some point before the DLC comes out, so you can look forward to that, but that's not going to take up an entry slot on this list. Speaking of things that don't count, I'm also going to bring up Life is Strange, the remastered collection. Life is Strange is a series that I've wanted to get into for a while, and I think this year is going to be the perfect time to do that. I don't know if I'm even going to bother buying the remastered collection because I actually have the first game, so it might not be worth it for me, but I did want to mention it here. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake is a game that I completely forgot was announced, but that was announced in 2020, and the only news that there's been is that it's just being delayed indefinitely, so I'm not confident that it even comes out in 2022. It kind of feels like it's getting the Digimon Survive treatment, which, yes, I'll bring up Digimon Survive. I am anticipating it, but this list is for games that are actually going to come out. Alright, starting off the list proper, we're going to talk about Hogwarts Legacy, which is going to be an open-world action RPG set in the Harry Potter universe. And those are all things that sound like good things to me. I still haven't seen any gameplay, so I'm going to wait until I see any before I really make the decision to play this game. There was some news about it recently that makes it seem more likely that it is going to come out in 2022. I was very skeptical that it was, but I'm a little more confident now that there's been some recent news on the game. So hopefully we'll see some more gameplay in the next coming months, and then I can really make my decision. But if it turns out to be half as good as it sounds, I think it's going to be a really fun game. The next game we're going to talk about is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I wasn't initially overly impressed with what I saw because I've just never really been into Kirby games. But as time has gone on, I've really kind of reconsidered, and I think this could be a fun game. It is supposed to come out spring 2022, which is kind of stacked, so I don't know if I'll be able to play it immediately as it comes out, but depending on its release date, I might do a full playthrough of this, I might not, I don't know, but I am definitely going to play this game and see if it's any good, because I think it looks like a fun time at least. The next game we're going to talk about is probably the first game from this list that I'm going to play, and that's Ollie Ollie World, an indie game that is apparently a sequel to another Ollie Ollie game that I've never heard of, but looking at the trailer, it looks really fun. It's just a 2D skateboarding platformer game, and it looks like it has a cool art style, and I'm just interested to try it out and see if it's any good. Part of what I want to do for this next year is find some games that not everybody's playing and see what sort of treasures I can find. The next game I'm going to be talking about is Metal Hellsinger, which is a first-person shooter rhythm game where you fight your way through hells shooting demons along to metal music. I don't know, it sounds like a game that's kind of for a very niche audience, but like, hello, it's me, I'm the niche audience. Something about this just seems really fun and really cool, and I am weirdly excited to play it, and I don't know how many people are going to. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The next game I want to talk about is Starfield, and I don't know if I'm super excited to play it, but I am very much anticipating just its release. I want to see if it's a good game, I want to see how well received it is. I've never been like the biggest fan of Bethesda games, but they have made some objectively great games, and this could be one that I get into, and it could be really good, but I think it has been a while since they've made like a really well-received game. I think this has flop potential, but I'm going to remain hopeful. I think it's going to be really good, but I'm not going to set my expectations too high without at least seeing some gameplay or anything first. Alright, the next game we're going to talk about is Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is a tactical role-playing game coming out in March. March is kind of the worst month for a new game to come out, so I don't know if I'll get to it day of. But I am really excited for this. This seems like it's going to be kind of like the XCOM games. It's made by the same people. And I was never really able to get into XCOM, but it wasn't really because of the gameplay. I don't know. It never really sucked me in. But I think maybe with superheroes and extra powers and things like that, I think this could be a game that I can get really suckered into. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good, and yeah, I can't wait to try it out. The next game I want to talk about is Forspoken, which I think we're going to hear a lot more about leading up to its release. It took me a couple trailers to really be sold on it, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a good game. It is going to be an open world action RPG. I love the visuals of it. The gameplay looks like it's going to be fun. And it's made by the same people that made Final Fantasy 15, which while I've never played it, I've only heard good things. So I have faith that the studio can make a good video game. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun. It comes out at the end of May. And the only holdback that I have is that I think it's going to be exclusive to PlayStation 5. And I have to see if I can even get a PlayStation 5 at that point. But if I have one, I'm definitely playing this game. And I think it's going to be so good. The next game I want to talk about is After Love EP, which is a game that was just talked about at the Indie Direct that Nintendo did very recently. As I was watching it and listening to them describe what the game is, I was like, oh my gosh, you're just describing the plot of Given, which is like one of my favorite animes of all time. So if this game delivers music and characters that are half as good, this is going to be amazing. I don't know how many other people are going to play this, but I am already so sold on this. It's going to be a dating sim, visual novel, rhythm game somehow, all incorporated into one, where is going to have choices that you make that are going to affect some of the things that happen. This is literally everything that I love to do, and I think this is going to be so good to make content on. I cannot wait to play this, because I think people that watch my channel and have liked some of the stuff that I played are really going to dig this, and I think I am as well. The next game I'm looking forward to is Advance Wars Reboot Camp. It was supposed to come out in December, and I would have already been playing it, but it got pushed back, and I'm still very excited to play it. I never was able to play the Advance Wars games when I was a kid, but I did grow up playing classic Fire Emblem games, and I hear that if you like one, you probably at least like the other. I'm very interested to at least check it out. It's the same sort of tactics gameplay, but instead of like medieval characters, it's like tanks and military stuff. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Right now it says spring 2022, which I know is kind of stacked, but I promise that whenever it comes out, I am going to be doing a full-on playthrough of it day one. Alright, I'm sure there's nobody else on this planet that is excited for this next game as I am, but I cannot wait to play Park Beyond. I have not been able to share my love and obsession of roller coasters and amusement parks, and I think if you understood how deep that love goes, you would understand why I'm so excited for this game. This game looks like a very unrealistic, cartoony version of like a theme park game simulator. It reminds me a lot of a game called Thrillville that I played when I was a kid, and I loved that game, and I feel like this is going to take that energy and just go next level with it. This looks like it's going to be so much fun. I'm playing it day one. I am playing the whole thing. I really, really hope that this game is as good as I'm going to make it in my mind. I don't think that it's going to be as objectively good as a lot of other games on this list, but personally, I'm really hoping that this speaks to me, because I really have wanted something like this, and I never thought that I would get another really crazy, out-of-this-world, cartoony theme park game. The next game that I'm super excited to talk about is Salt and Sacrifice. This is the sequel to a game called Salt and Sanctuary, which I actually haven't really played. I played a little bit of it, but not that much. It's a 2D Dark Souls-like game, and I know that gets attached to a lot of games, but this like very much has a very similar gameplay loop to a Dark Souls-style game, but in a 2D sense. but I have not actually played the first game yet. However, that is going to be the next thing that I start streaming on Twitch. So if this game looks interesting to you, come experience Salt and Sanctuary with me. I know enough about it to know that I'm going to love it, and I cannot wait to play that and then play the sequel, Salt and Sacrifice, whenever it comes out in 2022. I think it's going to be so good. Alright, we're at the top of the list. Let's start talking about the heavy hitters. Let's talk about Horizon Forbidden West, which originally wasn't even going to be on this list because something about Horizon Zero Dawn never really connected with me. However, I decided that I was going to give it one final chance, and I've been playing it on my own time, and oh my goodness, everything is clicking, and I think the game is amazing. I'm only a couple hours in, and I'm already sure that I'm going to fall in love with Horizon Zero Dawn the way people did when it first came out. And now that makes me so excited that Horizon Forbidden West is coming out, and I'm just going to be able to experience both essentially back to back, and I cannot wait to play it. There's probably not going to be a full playthrough or anything like that, but I am going to find some way to talk about the game because I'm sure that it is going to be a masterpiece and definitely a running for Game of the Year. And I'm basically just going to be repeating myself a lot for this one because we're going to talk about God of War Ragnarok, which, similar thing, I didn't actually play God of War until this year, and when I played it, I fell in love with it. I love God of War 2018. I think it is an incredible game, and God of War Ragnarok, I think, is probably the safest bet to be a fantastic video game. All you have to do is give me more of the God of War combat, and I'm going to be so satisfied. If they do anything even beyond that, which I'm pretty sure they probably will, I think it's going to be an incredible game. I'm excited to see what they do with the story. With everything fresh in my mind, I just cannot wait to play God of War Ragnarok. I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but I'm really, really hoping that it will come out in 2022 now that we've seen like gameplay and things like that. I'm pretty hopeful that it won't get delayed too much past wherever it's going to be released now. This next game might not be a heavy hitter for other people, but it is for me. I am so excited for Triangle Strategy. Comes out March 4th, and it's a turn-based tactics game, very similar to Fire Emblem. As a super huge fan of Fire Emblem Three Houses, this is the game that I think is going to fill the gap between Three Houses and like the next Fire Emblem game for me. I played the demo when it was announced at the One Nintendo event. It seems like the developers took the feedback that they got from that and made a ton of quality of life changes. It's going to have a great story. It's going to have really good combat, and I think that it's just going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to explore the world. I cannot wait to learn the story and meet all the characters and learn everything. I think it's going to be so good. The tactics style gameplay is different enough from like Fire Emblem to not just be like a copy and be something that I can learn and get invested in and just lose myself in. And then there's also extra things of getting your army to like make decisions and things like that. It's going to be so good. I cannot wait. In a year where there's so many other heavy hitter games that everybody's going to be focused on, this one has a legitimate chance to steal the show and be my favorite game of the year if it's as good as I'm starting to build it up in my mind. And finally, the game that I am the most excited for in 2022 is Elden Ring. For those who do not know, Bloodborne is my favorite game of all time, and Elden Ring looks like it could be just as good, if not better. Therefore, by default, it has to be my most anticipated game. I've seen gameplay of it. I've seen some of the things that have been shown. Everything looks amazing. It looks like they've added a lot of little quality of life stuff that is going to help me not get lost in a new world exploring around. This game is just going to be fantastic. I'm expecting it to be. There's a slight chance that it disappoints because the expectations are very high in my mind. But as of right now, it is my most anticipated game. I'm going to be playing a ton of it when it comes out on February 25th. So that's it. That's going to do it for my most anticipated games for 2022. Hopefully next year I can take a look back and talk about how good all of these games were, but only time will tell. So if you did like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're interested in watching me play or talk about any of these games, and I will see y'all for whatever you decide to show up for. Until then, peace out.